Hi you guys, I'm Leanne and I'll be your instructor for your lesson today. We're really excited about today's lesson and we think you're going to love it. As always, make sure that you guys are working on the mat that's provided in the box when you're working on your table. Make sure that you put your name on your project legibly, because there's going to be a lot of you guys coming in and bringing stuff to us. So we want to make sure that we know whose is whose. And lastly, make sure that you clean up really well after each lesson. A bucket of water and a sponge and just a quick wipe down the mat should be all you need. All right, we're excited. Let's get started. All right, you guys, we are going to make this mug today. So you will be needing your clay, a template, slip, a paintbrush, fork, a sponge, and your cutting tool. First thing that I'm going to have you guys do is you guys are going to cut out your template. You just cut across this line right here. Then we'll just cut around that circle. So what you end up with is right here. And have you use your cutting tool and go straight across. Cut out your first little section. Take this off and set that to the side. And take my second here. Use all of my slab and I'm going to cut around it. Gently taking this off. And I'm going to set the slab to the side. Okay, so we are going to do something that's called beveling. And what beveling allows us to do is it's going to cut the slab at a 45-degree angle, giving us a little bit more surface area. So when this comes on here, it attaches, gives us just a little bit more to attach to. So I'm taking this, and just with my cutting tool, I'm just going to run it across the edge of my slab and pressing down at about a 45-degree angle. If I just run that flat part across, just beveling that edge. So if we get a side view of it, you can see. Here we go. Now I'm going to score that area, either with your cutting tool or you guys can use your fork. Just remember, you just need to rough up the surface area just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same with my circle here. I'm going to score the edges all the way around. To make sure I really get a nice attachment, because this is going to hold liquid, so we want to make sure that we have a nice attachment. I'm going to take my slip and I'm liberally going to apply it to the bottom here and around the outside of my circle. Okay, now gently picking this up. I'm just going to come from one side here and not on top of it, but rather on the side of it here. I'm just gently pressing that clay onto that slab and working my way around. So I'm just using my hand on the back side here and just pressing that in, moving around, moving all the way around that slab of clay. When I get to the end, I should have a pretty good little overlap area. With that overlap, I'm going to, you guessed it, score, because I'm putting two pieces of clay together. So I'm going to score and slip. So we've got a pretty strong seam right there. Now, this is artistic interpretation here. You guys can play with this seam if you'd like. You can make it a part of your mug, where say if you add buttons onto it or make it some kind of like a distinct feature, or you can choose to smooth it out like we did in this mug right here, so you can't really tell where it is. And that's where I'm gonna show you guys how to smooth it out. So I'm gonna take my left hand on the inside, my right hand on the outside, and I'm just gently supporting the wall as I push through. Just move that clay kind of over. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. This time I'm going to use my left hand on the outside to support it. My right hand's going to come on the inside, and moving up, I'm getting rid of this seam right into here. Doing that same thing so it's nice and smooth in there, so it's easy for us to wash later on. You guys don't want any rough edges that can catch stuff, because you are not going to want to scrub those areas out. I'm just supporting it, and just make sure, you guys, it's going to be kind of soft, so you want to make sure that you can support it as you're moving through it so it does not distort the shape too much. Now I can take this here on the bottom, that same thing, I'm going to press in and make sure that I've got a really nice attachment. And I'm just going to take my time here and smooth out this bottom the same way. One way too is just to kind of roll it on to the board and pressing down onto it just nice and gently. That kind of smooths that out. Do you see how that's smoothing out that seam for me? And allowing it to clean it up. Okay, I'm going to take my sponge here, and I'm going to, what this is called the lip or the rim of the cup, and I'm going to go ahead and run my sponge along the outsides of this. To just kind of soften this up. And make sure that it's nice and smooth at the top, since we are going to be drinking out of this. Now, it might be a little bit hard to work with right now because it's what's called, it's soft. It's a very soft, we're soft slabs. We're working with soft slabs to build this mug. So if you guys would like, you guys can let this sit out for about an hour or so, or maybe an hour or two, so it gets to about leather or cheese hard, where it stiffens up a little bit, and it might be a little bit easier to work with if you guys feel like it's collapsing too much onto itself. When it's leather or cheese hard, you still want to be able to stick your finger into it. But if you touch it, it's going to hold its shape a little bit more. But I'm just going to keep working with this soft slab. But if you feel like it's collapsing too much on you, set it aside, let it set up a little bit, and then come back to it in a little while, and it'll be easier to work with. Just kind of moving. And I'm just taking the time really to kind of smooth this out, you guys. Just using the side of my finger and running up. Now, it's your guys' decision now how you guys want this mug to look. If you guys want to add a handle, now would be the time to add a handle. Or you guys could just leave it as a tumbler or as a vase. I'm going to show you guys how to add a handle. So using that excess clay that I had from my slab earlier that I set aside, I'm going to go ahead and cut it to the size that I want. That's just a little thick. I'm going to take my finger and just kind of run my finger along these edges. I don't want to introduce a lot of water to this, you guys. I just kind of want to smooth my finger along here just to make sure that I smooth out those edges so they're not sharp when I come and grab it. I'm just running that clay between my index and my thumb and smoothing those edges. Now, I'm going to take, you see, I can still kind of see where my seam is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my handle right there, because that's going to kind of help hide that seam where everything kind of came together. So remember, whenever you put two pieces of clay together, you're going to score, which is just roughing up the surface area, and score. So I'm scoring 2 parts on the mug, and then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to score on the front side of it on one side, and on the back side of the other side. I kind of want to gauge and see how big this handle is. I think that's a little long, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this down. And if I happen to cut any of my score marks off, I'll just come back in and rescore. Now I'm going to add my slip to the mug, the top and the bottom on both pieces, here and here. And with the top part, so we've got it scored and slipped on the top of it and on the bottom of it. The top of it is going to go on the top of the mug, pressed in. I'm using that left hand to support on the inside, using my index finger support and pressing down with my thumb. I'm just pressing it in. Then I'm going to come down below it, and I'm going to press, apply pressure. I want to make sure, you guys, it's really important to look at this handle and make sure that it's nice and level. I don't know how many times I've made a mug and it's been off kilter or diagonal. So make sure that it's nice and even before you press on here. Just smooth. And go. Okay. And we're going to set that for the side, you guys. I'm going to ask you guys just to kind of leave this for about an hour or so. Let it set up to the leather hard. Then you guys can come back in and clean it up. So we have one that we've set up to be about leather hard, so it's a little bit easier to deal with. And now I can come in and kind of smooth out these seams if I'd like. I can add any decoration that I want. It's just going to be, see how this one's pretty floppy to work with? This one's a little stiffer, so it allows me to handle the mug a little bit easier and not have to worry so much about distortion of shape. So now this is where you guys can choose to kind of make the mug your own. You guys can add any additive work that you want. You guys could add a symbol, a name, carve into it, anything along those lines. You guys could add some texture to it. So I think that's what we're going to kind of do, is just add just a little bit of a emblem onto ours. We're going to flatten this and push it out. I'm going to score. I'm going to slip. I'm actually just going to make it into a heart, I think. That's what we'll add on the front of our mug. But you guys can choose to add whatever. You guys can add your name. You guys could add mom. You could add texture. Anything that you guys want to kind of make this mug your own. But I'm going to go ahead and slip this one more time. Just adding a real simple heart onto mine. Get onto the front and pushing that in. Ta-da!